First of all, thank you for being part of IMG's financial literacy campaign. We're doing this and we're being very proactive in sharing financial literacy even through webinars so that we can really teach people how to become financially educated. So before we start, let's begin with a short prayer. It's called the True Millionaire's Prayer by Brother Bo Sanchez. In the name of the Father, of the Son, of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Today, I ask you to bless me so I may become a blessing. Lord, I commit myself to enrich others, but because I cannot give what I do not have, I commit myself to become rich. I commit myself to serve you and to serve the poor with my wealth. Today, I open myself to the abundance of your universe. Use me as your channel of love. Give me the ability to create wealth that will bless the world. Increase my financial wisdom and expand my territories. I place my life in your hands. In Jesus' name, amen. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, amen. Again, thank you for being part of this Saving and Building Your Future webinar. And we really hope that through this financial coaching class, you will learn as much as you can and be able to achieve all of the goals, all of the dreams that you want to achieve. So let me introduce myself first. My name is Chai Santiago. I'm an engineering graduate by education and a full-time and a full-fledged financial coach by profession. So right after I graduated in 2012, I didn't get into employment anymore. I immediately pursued teaching financial literacy. So what is our story? What's my story? Why did I choose to take this career? So this is our family. These are my parents. This is my older brother, his wife, their daughter. I'm the second. He's the third among siblings and she's the bunso. So the story of our family is very, how do I call it? It's very typical. You know, my parents are both engineers. They're professionals who worked for more than 20, 30 years in big semiconductor companies. And they were earning very well. Each of them were earning six-figure income. So, we were very much comfortable, to say the least. My parents were able to send us to good schools. And growing up, we really enjoyed having a very comfortable life. But in 2007, my mom was identified to retire from her job. She was only 48 years old back then, and I was an incoming freshman college, and I had two younger siblings who are still in high school and grade school respectively. So it was only my kuya who have graduated from college. So, kung iisipin, ang dami pang responsibilidad ng magulang ko. And hindi in-expect ng mom ko to be retired as early as 48 years old. But she had no choice because their company was closing down here in the Philippines. And mind you, it's a really huge company. It's Intel. So, she didn't foresee yung pagsasara ng factory nila dito. But again, she didn't have a choice. It was during the global financial crisis. Kaya wala siyang option but to really learn how to invest her hard-earned money because otherwise, yung retirement money niya mauubos lang sa responsibilidad niya and pagbabayad ng utang because aside from the fact that she still had 3 children to send to college, they were also buried in 7-figure debt. So, can you just imagine, mawalan ka ng trabaho, may malaki ka pang responsibilidad, and you're also buried in 7-figure debt. Talaga namang magsisik ka ng help, diba? So, they were forced to look for financial coaches, and I think maganda na rin yung detour yun because that's where they met Brother Bo, that's where they met IMG through the Truly Rich seminar of Brother Bo. So, nakilala namin yung IMG 11 years ago. And the same concepts that they have learned back then will be the same concepts that I'll be sharing with you. And these concepts are the ones that helped us get out of that 7-figure debt. Those concepts are the ones that helped us finish college. And those concepts are the ones that helped us achieve the dreams that we have always dreamed of. That's why now we really think we need to pay it forward. Kumbaga, kung paano kami natulungan ng IMG, gusto namin na mas marami pa rin mga Pilipino yung maturuan ng mga financial concepts na yun para makawala din sila dun sa difficult financial situation nila and make sure na ma-achieve nila yung mga financial goals na gusto nilang ma-achieve. So, fast forward, just to give you an update, my parents are out of their 7-figure debt. Lahat kami nakagraduate na, and they were also able to write this book. It's called The Debt Destroyers. So you can grab a copy of this book in National Bookstore para malaman nyo pa ng mas malalim yung naging story namin, how they got into their 7-figure debt and how they were able to get out of it. So, this is a really powerful tool para kung may pinagdadaanan man kayong difficult situation, it will give you hope. Kasi 'di ba kung kami nga nakawala sa ganung sitwasyon, I'm sure that you can also do it. And yun, so that's our story. And I hope that through this financial literacy webinar, you will really learn to handle your finances well. So, let's start. How important is financial literacy? So, most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to plan. Tama naman yun eh. 'Di ba? Marami namang mga tao gusto lang maging successful. The thing is, hindi nila napagpaplanuhan. So, what happens if we don't create financial plans? So, sabi nga dito, poor money management is usually a result of financial ignorance. And what are the effects of financial ignorance? Una sa lahat, wrong money mindset. When we're not financially educated, we are bombarded with different money mindsets, which we call poor money mindset. So, ano yung mga examples yan? So, una, yung madalas natin narinig yan, di ba? I'm too young or I'm too old mindset. Bata pa ako, marami pa akong oras para mag-ipon, mag-invest, tsaka na yan. Or I'm too old, pa-retire na ako, hindi ko na kaya yan, wala na akong magagawa. Bahala na si Batman, di ba? Or yung isa pa na mindset is, ang tingin nila is that the solution to our major financial challenges is to borrow money or umutang. So, hindi nila pinaghahandaan, ayaw nilang solusyonan, kasi nga, for them, the easy way out is just to borrow money. Third wrong money mindset would be this, that financial education is only for the wealthy. Ako, maling-mali to, dahil ang financial education is actually for everyone. Hindi lang siya pang mayaman. Whether you're a security guard, driver, maid, janitor, you're a professional, a doctor, an engineer, a businessman, we all need financial literacy. Okay? So, fourth, yung bahala na mentality. 'Di ba? So, kung may maipon, may maipon. Kung manalo sa loto, manalo sa loto. Kung hindi, hindi. Bahala na si Batman, di ba? So, that's very wrong. Because this actually leads us to bigger problems. Especially kung hindi tayo prepared sa mga crisis na mangyari sa buhay natin. And lastly, this misconstrued YOLO mindset. Di ba? Yung enjoy lang tayo ngayon. Kung mabuhay tayo ng mahaba, well and good. If we do not live long, di wala. Pero ang problema, what if you live long enough tapos hindi ka nga nakaipon, 'di ba? So, kawawa yung future family mo. And ako naniniwala ko that there's a way for you to really enjoy now while making sure that you also enjoy later. And I believe that's the true essence of YOLO, 'di ba? You maximize every season of your life. So, those are the 5 major wrong money mindset. So, ano yung isa pang effect ng financial ignorance? So, people end up with no savings and high debt. Bakit? So, many people use their credit cards as their emergency fund. And paulit-ulit yung cycle na to. That's why even when they get old at pa-retire na sila, hindi pa rin ubos yung utang nila. Pangalawa, many people can't retire because of loans and debts. 'Di ba? So, hindi lang basta sa credit card, pati yung pagpapaaral, 'di ba? Parang malapit ng matapos yung employment nila, or especially yung mga tao na biglang nawala ng trabaho, tapos maghahanap ng bagong trabaho, mas maliit na yung sweldo nila, tapos hindi na enough yung pambayad nila ng utang, mas lalong humahaba yung panahon na nababaon sila sa utang. So third, most people don't know how to manage their debts. Instead, their debts manage them. And madalas nga, I'm sure narinig nyo na yun, yung pambayad sa isang utang ay isa pa ulit na utang. So, imbes na investments ang naiipon, loans at utang ang naiipon kasi nga yung cycle paikot-ikot lang. So, again, this is an effect of financial ignorance. What is the last one? Saving the wrong way. Akalain nyo, diba? There's a wrong way pala of saving. So, what do we mean by this? So, did you know that a lot of people, majority actually ng mga Pilipinos, ng mga Pilipino na nagtatrabaho, pagdating ng retirement, wala silang ipon. Kasi nga, ang pinaglalagay nila madalas ng pera nila, yung mga bagay na hindi naman na nila kayang ma-liquidate by the time they retire. So, anong example? Diba? Bahay, kotse, lupa, gadgets, at kung ano-ano pang mga liabilities na hindi mo naman pwedeng gamitin para mapakain ka in the long run. So, what am I trying to say? We have to be very mindful kung saan natin nilalagay yung hard-earned money natin. Hindi pwedeng puro lang sa mga liabilities kasi pagtanda natin, kakailanganin natin yung ipon para meron pa rin tayong pang-sustain ng responsibilities. Okay? So, pangalawa, maraming mga tao hindi marunong mag-invest. So, did you know that Filipinos are the only people in the world with 13th month pay? Kung matutunan lang nila mag-invest at mapalago yung pera nila, kahit 5 years worth lang ng 13th month pay nila, it could actually be big enough para pagdating ng retirement nila, may pang-sustento na sila. But again, because they don't know how to save and invest the correct way, wala tayong naitatabi for our retirement. So, what are the long-term effects of financial ignorance? So, based on a senior citizen survey done here in the Philippines, 30% of the Filipino retirees are forced to continue to work. And yung masaklap dito, the job that they get into are not the kind of job that they really want to. Kumbaga, they're just forced to work kasi nga kailangan nila ng pangsustento. Now, what if you can't work anymore? So, a huge chunk or a bigger chunk of the senior citizens, and I'm sure meron kang mga kakilalang ganito, they just depend on their children. Diba? Or maybe you're experiencing this, that your parents are depending on you because during their productive years, hindi nga sila nakaipon. So, what happens if the children can't take care of their parents anymore? So, nauuwi tayo sa mga home for the aged. So, 20% of the senior citizens are abandoned kasi nga hindi na rin sila kayang i-support ng mga anak nila. And there's a small percentage, 8% who rely on pension. Kumbaga, satisfied na sila sa napakaliit na pension nila. Pero, if you think about it, and later on we'll be discussing this, hindi siya enough, actually. So, the minority, the smallest chunk of senior citizens at 2%, sila lang yung considered as financially independent. So, what do we mean by financially independent? The 2% are the ones who enjoy financial freedom. So, when we say financial freedom, actually, this is different for all. Iba-iba naman tayo ng definition ng financial freedom. But generally, it is the time of your life wherein you're highly satisfied, hindi ka na stressed or hindi ka na bound by a job. Or if you are in a job, you don't see it as a job anymore. Kumbaga, nag-e-enjoy ka na lang because you don't have to rely on the income that you will be getting or wala ka ng mga responsibilidad na iniisip or mga bayarin na nakapatong sa ulo mo. You're just really enjoying your life. And another thing, financial freedom is not based on age. You can be financially free as early as you want to be. And it really depends on what you want in life, diba? Kung simpleng buhay yung gusto mo, pwedeng maging financially free ka talaga as early as you want. But you have big dreams and you want to make sure that you're able to have funds for all of those dreams, then we need to work harder, diba? So, I'm sure you're here because you want to be part of the 2%. And we always say this, with financial education, you can face all those challenges that we've mentioned earlier, diba? Yung wrong money mindset, yung hindi makapag-ipon, yung hindi makapag-save, kayang-kaya nating i-beat yun. And definitely, there is hope for all of us. So, let's start. So, the secrets to saving and building your future. So, we will be having 2 parts. Yung first part will be all about the concepts. So, mga mostly financial literacy concepts. And then the second part will be all about the application. So, hindi naman pwedeng turuan lang namin kayo, pero ang goal talaga namin is also to guide you how to apply or how to execute the concepts that we'll be sharing with you today. So, let's start with the 4 basic financial planning concepts. So, the first concept I'll be sharing with you is what we call the X-curve concept. So, the X-curve concept involves 2 curves. And it looks like an X. So, the first curve is what we call the wealth curve, and the second curve is what we call the responsibility curve. And the X curve tells us that while we are young, this is our reality. Wala tayong masyadong savings at mataas na agad ang responsibilidad natin. But our goal, or what we should aspire for, is that as we get old, napapataas natin yung ating wealth curve, so we have high savings, and we reduce our responsibilities, or we have low responsibility. So, first, pag-usapan natin, ano ba yung mga responsibilidad natin while we are young? Bakit nga ba hindi tayo makaipon? Diba? So, yan yung mga basic needs. Food, shelter, clothing, education, health, debts, loans, mortgages. So, lahat ng yan, it takes up most of the money that we earn. Kasi nga, yan yung mga major responsibilities natin as of the moment. And what is the kind of income that we earn to sustain those responsibilities? We call it active income. Kumbaga, sa phase na to, na bata ka pa, productive ka, the income that you're getting is what we call active income, or you work hard for the money so that you can sustain all your responsibilities. Now, the thing is, lahat tayo tumatanda. Lahat tayo aabot sa point na kailangan nating mag-retire. So, ang goal natin, to turn active income to passive income, wherein money already works for you. Kahit hindi ka na nagtatrabaho, perang pumapasok pa rin sa'yo. That's what we call passive income. So, why do we need passive income? Because when we get old, we still need to eat. Kailangan pa rin natin magbayad ng bills. Kailangan natin ng damit, diba? And one of our biggest responsibility by the time we get old is our health. And if we're not prepared for it, yan na. Kaya tayo nagiging part ng mga taong umaasa sa anak, pipilitin pa rin magtrabaho. Kasi nga, may mga responsibilidad tayong kailangan bayaran. So, if we have passive income, definitely we can sustain all these responsibilities. So, this is life, diba? But in the middle, in the word life, there's the word if. Bakit may if? Kasi meron tayong 2 ifs na kailangan i-address. So, what are those 2 ifs? So, una, puntahan natin yung first if. What if you die too soon, diba? If you die too soon, meaning, marami ka pang responsibilidad na sinusustain, and may mga nakaasa pa sa'yo, may pamilya ka na binubuhay. So, let's put figures. What if you pay for food, 300,000 per year, shelter, ganun din. So, to sum it all up, ang total responsibilities mo is 3.5 million. And what if you die too soon? What if something happens to you and your family is left with all these responsibilities? Hindi naman matitigil yan di ba? So, how do we protect them? Diyan pumapasok yung importance of life insurance. So, you get life insurance not just for yourself, but primarily for your family so that they will be protected in case something happens to you. Importante yun. But the problem is, a lot of people nowadays, they get life insurance at ang una nilang tanong, magkano yan pagtanda ako? So, hindi yun ang primary purpose. Dapat ang una mong tanong, magkano yung makukuha ng pamilya ko if something happens to me? So, you get life insurance so that your family is not left with nothing. Clear? So, what is the second if? What if you live too long? So, this is a good problem, di ba? Pag humaba ang buhay natin, so how do you prepare for it? So, dyan lumalabas yung importance of having investments and protection for yourself and, of course, for your family. Bakit? Because, as I've mentioned earlier, you need money to sustain your responsibilities. Okay, so in summary, this is how we should prepare for the two ifs of our lives. So, if you die too soon, what do you need? You need life insurance. And if you live too long, you need investments and long-term care. So, later on, we'll be discussing this some more. But for now, let's move on. So, maraming mga tao, ang solusyon nila, yung mga government programs natin, 'di ba? So, they think na SSS or GSIS is enough. But the problem is, hindi yan, the money that you get, hindi yan enough. Bakit? Kasi hindi man yan naka-invest. 'Di ba? Nag-iipon ka nga ngayon, pero yung naiipon mo, hindi naman yan tumutubo or hindi yan nag-grow. Kaya pag retire mo, yung akala mong malaking pera, maliit na lang pala siya. Diba? So, actually, ngayon, I know some people, ang pension nila from SSS, GSIS, 10,000 per month. 'Di ba? Mabubuhay ka ba nun? So, good luck. So, ang point ko lang, it's not enough. 'Di ba? Or like yan, pag-ibig, 'di ba? Yung housing programs for employees. Makakabili ka ng house, pero napakatagal bago mo matapos bayaran. And it's mostly for low-cost housing only. And ito, di ba, yung sabi natin kanina, we need long-term protection. And people think PhilHealth is enough. It's good if you have PhilHealth, but then again, maliit lang yung benefit that we get from it. So, obviously, if maging major financial crisis yan because of a health-related crisis, yung PhilHealth mo will not be enough. So, we need to get investments, protection, and insurance for ourselves. Hindi lang iasa sa government. So, sabi nga dito, the government programs are great, but we need to look into other means so that we can grow our money for our financial future. Okay, so that's the X-curve concept. Now, let's go to the next concept, which we call the solid financial foundation. First, let's talk about what is your situation right now. Nandun ba tayo sa left or sa right? So, truth is, people fail financially for they build a weak financial foundation. So, paano ko ipoprove sa inyo yan, di ba? Pag nagkasakit, hindi ka protected, or breadwinner namatay, hindi din properly insured, ang ending ng family, utang. Di ba? Tas kung wala ring emergency fund, tas wala pang investment, imagine kung ganyan yung itsura ng financial house mo, and something happens to you, obviously, mabilis lang siyang guguho. So, our goal is to build a strong financial foundation. So, how do we build a strong financial foundation? This is how it should look like. So, una sa lahat, we need to have our healthcare, and then life protection or insurance, and then debt management, emergency fund, and then investment. Diba? So, isa-isahin natin siya. Bakit kailangan meron tayong healthcare? Obviously, if we get sick or if something happens to us and we became incapable of going to work, 'di ba? Wala nang magtatrabaho, walang perang papasok sa atin, 'di ba? And if we're not properly protected, ang ending lang niyan, baka umutang lang yung family natin. So later we'll be discussing this in depth. Ano ba yung difference ng long-term and short-term healthcare, and why do we need to have both? And then, of course, we need to have life protection, or most commonly known as life insurance. Because as I've mentioned, diba, if something happens to us, we wouldn't want our family to just get into more debts. And obviously, we need to manage our debts. Dapat ma-eliminate natin yan, especially yung mga parang anay na kumakain ng pera natin. And then we create our emergency fund. Tapos saka tayo pupunta sa kung ano-ano pang mga investment. So, the primary investment that you have to get into first and foremost is the investment you have to get for yourself, for your health, and your life. Kasi, diba, ikaw ang pinaka-importanteng asset among everything else. So, that is our solid financial foundation. So, sabi ni Rex Mendoza, you don't have the right to invest unless you are properly protected. So, we are already done with the X-curve concept and the solid financial foundation. Now, let's go to the rule of 72. So, the rule of 72 is actually derived from the compounding interest formula na inaral natin when we were back in high school or maybe in college. But we never really understood how do we apply it in our personal financial life, diba? Pero there's actually a simpler formula which will help us find out, 'di ba, gaano ba katagal bago lumago yung pera natin. And if dito lang natin siya nilalagay, or halimbawa, nasa bangko lang siya, or nasa piggy bank mo, paano ba yan lalago? So, I think sinasabi natin kanina na we have to learn how to save the right way. And saving the right way involves investing. So, how does investing work? So, sabi ni Einstein, if you divide the number 72 by the annual interest rate, kung saan mo nilalagay yung pera mo, it will give you the number of years to double your money. Example, si Andrea, she's 27 years old. She has 100,000. Kung nasa wallet nilang yan or nasa safe ang annual interest rate, wala. So, the number of years to double her money, never. Her earnings before the age of 60, wala rin. Kung nasa savings account yan, and your annual interest rate is 0.25, less withholding tax, it would be 0.2. 72 divided by 0.2 is equal to 360 years. Good luck, diba? So, ilang taon na siya nun? 387 years old. So, her earnings before the age of 60, insignificant. Huwag na nating pag-usapan. What about if ilagay natin siya sa time deposit at 1%? So, 72 divided by 1, the number of years for her to double her money is 72. Diba? 72 divided by 1, 72. Her earnings before the age of 60, less than 200,000 pa. Now, what if we put our money in the stock market or on mutual funds or on vehicles that will really earn more than 1%, 2%. And ang goal talaga natin is to make sure that we are beating inflation, because otherwise, parang hindi din nag-grow yung pera mo and kinakain lang yung value niya ng inflation. So, we need to look for vehicles that will beat inflation. So, ano yung example niyan? Stocks. So, in the stock market, the average annual interest rate that you can get is within 12 to 20%. So, let's say 12%. 72 divided by 12 is equal to 6 years. Imagine, di ba? Compare mo yung 360 years and 72 years sa 6 years. Kaya importante talaga that we look for the best options. So, 72 divided by 6, 72 divided by 12, 6 years. So, kung 27 years old siya and she has 100,000, after 6 years, yung 100,000 niya becomes 200,000. After another 6 years, 400,000, and so on and so forth. So, pagdating niya ng 60 or 63, meron na siyang 6.4 million. Imagine the difference between having no earnings and yung 6.4. If we don't know how to invest, parang namimigay lang tayo ng pera, tinatapon lang natin siya sa hangin. That's why it's very important that we learn how to invest correctly and safely din naman. Hindi naman pwedeng mabilisan, 'di ba? Kaya nga marami ding nabibiktima sa scams kasi gusto nila masyadong mabilis. So, ang average time frame for you to double your money is maybe 6 or 5 years, 'di ba? So, importante hanapin mo yung tamang mga investment vehicles that will give you this kind of return. So, really, the key when it comes to investing is consistency, and you have to do it long term. Walang shortcut when it comes to investing. But imagine if you do it consistently, even if you start with small amounts such as 20 pesos, 50 pesos, diba? Per day, in 20 to 30 years time, you can still become a multi-millionaire. Imagine. So, it's really for all. Investing is really for all. So, now we're already done with the X-curve concept, the solid financial foundation, and the rule of 72. Now, we are down to our last basic financial planning concept, which we call the pay yourself first. So, pag-usapan natin, bakit ba ang mga tao hirap na hirap mag-ipon? Diba? So, this formula is what most people use. That's why they find it difficult to have savings. So, ano ba itsura niya? So, usually, diba, the moment you get your income, ang una mong iniisip, gastos. And minsan, mas malaki pa yung gastos mo kaysa sa income mo. That's why, kahit sinasabi mong may matitira at yung matitira itatabi mo, reality is, there's nothing left, negative pa. So, may utang pa. Diba? Because this is the kind of formula that we use. And it's a cycle eh, 'di ba? Ang paggastos, kung hindi mo kayang i-control, kahit lumaki pa yung kinikita mo, hindi bababa yung ginagastos mo kasi nga you have that bad habit of spending. But the wealthy people's formula is different. Sabi nga ni Warren Buffett, do not save what is left after spending. Spend what is left after saving. Magtabi ka muna before you spend. So, how does it look like? Tawag dyan, pay yourself formula. Or, the moment you get your income, ang una mong iniisip, yung investments mo for your future self, and whatever is left, you use for your expenses. But we actually have a better formula. We call it the abundance formula. So, income muna, and then tithes and investments, and whatever is left, you use for your expenses. So, it's very important that we practice tithing kasi it's a way of telling ourselves that we are grateful. And when you're grateful, mas lalo kang bine-bless. And importante din na unahin mo yung 20% na tinatabi mo for your future self. Otherwise, walang maiipon, tatanda ka nang walang pera. And actually, ito yung sasabi ko kanina na YOLO talaga na totoo, 'di ba? At least, nag-enjoy pa rin yung present self mo with your 70%, but at the same time, you're making sure that you're setting aside 20% for your future self. Now, it's very important na naintindihan natin saan ba nanggagaling yung income, ano na yung mga possible income sources, saan pwede mag-tithe, ano yung mga kinoconsider nating investments, and what are considered as expenses. Kasi pagdating sa pagbabudget, dapat tama yung classification mo para hindi ka lumagpas dun sa 10, 20, 70. Okay, so let's talk about that. So first, ano ba yung iba't ibang possible income sources natin? So of course, given dyan yung work mo, di ba? If you're earning through a day job, or if you have a business, or if you have homes or apartments for rent, if you have commissioned works, and kung may pension ka. So lahat ng yan, dapat kung may work ka in business, dapat alam mo kung ano yung exact income mo from those streams, 'di ba? Or if you have pension, basta dapat you're able to identify how much is your 100%, how much are you earning per month, para yung palabas na pera hindi sumusobra doon. So second, we need to identify saan ba yung 10 and 20%. So of course, the tithes, we give it to the church, or we give it to a community where we are blessed. And then healthcare and insurance, those are considered as investments, not as expense. Mutual funds, of course, stocks, properties, anything that puts money in your pocket or anything that allows your money to grow, you can consider those as investments. And of course, lastly, let's talk about expenses. So everything else na palabas ang pera mo at walang bumabalik, such as your bills, your grocery, pangbayad sa tuition fee, gas, other basic expenses, travel, shopping, dates, gifts, party, celebration, debts, loans, mortgage, and all your other expense, basta palabas ang pera, part yan ng 70%. So, again, it's very important that you have a clear picture of your budget so that you don't go beyond your means. So, remember this. Let's practice paying ourselves first, diba? And how do we do it? Una, learn how to manage your expenses. Identify your fixed versus your variable expenses para alam mo kung saan ka pwedeng mag-adjust. Learn how to classify your needs versus your wants. Purpose ba? O forma lang? Diba? Cut all unnecessary expenses such as subscriptions, diba? Na hindi mo naman nagagamit. Maybe you can just cut them off. Practice delayed gratification. So, this is very important. Kung hindi pa natin afford, wag tayong basta-bastang mag-give in sa mga 0% interest or no down payment. Mas maganda, if you buy something, talagang kaya natin siyang mabili in cash, diba? Hindi through utang. Second, understand where money goes. It's very important na naintindihan mo kung ano yung asset versus liability. Mag-grow ba yung pera mo o hindi. Okay? So, just the final word before we proceed. Spending is a habit, and so is saving and investing. Let's remember this. And very important na for you to be able to replace your habit of spending, dapat mag-build ka ng bagong habit, which is saving. Okay? So now we're done with the 4 basic financial planning concepts: the X-curve, solid financial foundation, the rule of 72, and pay yourself first. Now we go to the application. Why? Because we believe that education without application is just entertainment, and we are not here to entertain you, but really to help you move from where you are now to where you want to be. Talagang we need to take action. So how do we apply the concepts that we have learned earlier? I'm going to share with you 5 ways to apply what we have learned earlier, and through these applications, we'll be able to build what we call the solid financial foundation. So first, let's talk about healthcare. What are the kinds of healthcare? Most people know or have heard about short-term healthcare because it's most commonly known as HMO. The thing about short-term healthcare is that it only covers you during your productive years or during your employment years. So, pag tumigil ka sa pagtatrabaho, hindi ka na covered. Another thing is, kung sakitan ka at parati kang may claims, the following year, hindi na guaranteed yung renewal mo. So, short-term healthcare with the term in itself, short-term lang siya. Second kind of healthcare, not as popular as the first one, but I'm sure you've heard of this. We call it senior care. So, this is similar to short-term healthcare or HMO, but it's for people beyond the age of 60. So, kung hindi ka na kayang makover ng HMO ng company mo or kung retired ka na, you can actually get healthcare for yourself. It's called senior care nga. But the thing about senior care is, number 1, it's expensive. Pangalawa, if you have a lot of pre-existing illnesses, hindi na pwedeng i-cover yun. And pangatlo, hindi siya naiipon. Diba? Mahal na nga siya, wala pang naiipon. Talagang okay siya if you have money. Pero kung hindi ka nakapag-ipon for your retirement, pwedeng madrain lang ng senior healthcare yung ipon mo. So, ideally, do not miss getting the third kind of healthcare, which we call the long-term healthcare. Why? Because yung long-term healthcare, you get it before the age of 60. And ang kagandahan niya, it has health savings. So, naiipon siya kung hindi mo siya nagagamit during your investment period. Pagtanda mo, meron ka ng healthcare na pwedeng gamitin, and it covers you even beyond the age of 60. Okay, so in the Philippines, a lot of people die not because there's no medicine or treatment, diba? Madalas, ang dahilan bakit hindi sila mapagaling kasi wala silang enough money for treatment. So, it's very important talaga that we get our healthcare, especially our long-term healthcare. So, just to illustrate to you, para mas malinaw lang siya. So, HMO, it's short-term healthcare. It's a benefit you get as an employee. Usually, it's between the age of 21 to 60 years old. For people who are within that range. And again, benefit lang siya, and sometimes you don't have to get it for yourself kasi covered ka naman na ng employer mo. Long-term healthcare, on the other hand, it's something that you have to get for yourself, and it will cover you beyond the age of 60. Ideally, we get it before you turn 60 kasi hindi mo na siya pwedeng makuha the moment you step the age of 60 nga. So, kapag hindi tayo nakakuha nito, we might end up getting senior care, which is, like I said earlier, it's very expensive. But then again, ganoon din naman, diba? If magkasakit tayo, hindi tayo prepared, so wala tayong healthcare, mas malaking gastos din yun. Okay, so let's check if we really need long-term healthcare. Okay, so sabi dito, you don't need long-term healthcare if you are sure that you're never going to get sick. I'm sure nobody is sure. Second, if you think you can bring your company's HMO even after you retire, pwede ba yun? Parang hindi, di ba? If you think your government can take care of your healthcare needs, your maintenance, meds, checkups, PhilHealth ba enough na? I don't think so. And if you expect your children to take care of you, so we have to break the cycle, di ba? Yung nakaasa ka sa anak mo. Ideally talaga, you have to get your own healthcare. So, sabi dito, the comfort level of your healthcare situation after the age of 60 depends on the decision that you make today. So, ano yung final test of a good healthcare? So, it must include all of these components, or we call it the 4 cornerstones. So, una, dapat may short-term healthcare. So, you can use it now. Of course, it needs to have long-term healthcare so you can use it later when you're already retired. Now, dapat kaya ring i-cover yung life insurance para kung halimbawa hindi ka nagkasakit, at least yung in-invest mo hindi din tinapon, 'di ba? At least your family will get something dahil nga nag-invest ka for your supposedly long-term healthcare. Now, if you live too long naman and you don't get sick, hindi ka mamatay agad, diba? Mas maganda if meron siyang savings and investments component. So, again, the final test of a good healthcare includes all these 4. Now, I'm gonna share with you one of the investment vehicles that IMG offers, specifically something that will give you long-term healthcare. So, please watch this video.
By tradition, the Filipinos maintain strong family ties. But it's this same tradition that prompted more than 50% of Filipino senior citizens to rely solely on their children and relatives for support in their old age. You can follow the same path, or you can choose to proceed in another way, a better way, the Kaiser way. And what is the Kaiser way? Financial independence, especially in your retirement years, when you'll really need medical attention and support. Other HMOs serve group and individual accounts. Kaiser International Health Group focuses on your long-term health needs. How? Kaiser uniquely provides for a second layer of HMO coverage, which gives members the option to utilize it or not. You can use it if you have to, but if you stay healthy, Kaiser International Health Group will reward you with the financial independence you deserve in your senior years. Simple, worry-free, effective. Why? Because Kaiser cares. Kaiser International Health Group, the first name in healthcare.
And that is Kaiser. So just to give you a little bit more background about it, it's primarily your long-term health care, but it also has a feature of short-term health care. And if you don't use it, your money continues to grow. That's why in the future, it has a specific cash value depending on what you have invested. But primarily, your goal is really not to touch it while you are young so that you have health care when you get old. So, to give you facts and figures, if your age is 10 to 40 years old, for as low as 88 pesos per day or 2,647 per month, you can already get your long-term health care. And the cash value of this plan in 20 years would be 520,000. And this amount can already be used for anything, anyone, and anywhere, not just for hospitalization, should you become healthy by the time you reach your senior years. So, diba, win-win siya because if you don't use it, you don't actually lose it. It just continues to grow and you can use it as a fund for all your other needs. And another thing that's beautiful about this is that you only have to invest for 7 years, but you're already protected for the rest of your life. So that's Kaiser. If you want to know more about long-term healthcare, you can just ask us after you watch this entire webinar. So that's it for healthcare. Let's talk about life protection, or most commonly known as life insurance. Sabi dito, if you love yourself and your family, go and get yourself adequately protected. And this is very true, 'di ba? If anything happens to us, kailangan masigurado natin na yung pamilya natin hindi maiiwan ng wala. especially if we are the breadwinner. So let's talk about what are the different purposes of life insurance. So life insurance can be used to protect your family and replace your income if you die too soon. Diba? So it could be a source of their livelihood kapag nawala yung breadwinner. Okay? Second, it can be used to finance your children's education, especially kung nasa bata pa yung anak mo, wala pang, hindi pa nag-aaral, you can get life insurance para if something happens to you along the way, hindi matitigil ang mundo nila, 'di ba? And they can still go to college and fund their education through the life insurance that they will be getting from you. Okay? And then, third, it can also be used to pay estate tax. This is very important, lalo na kung marami tayong mga properties na ita-transfer sa family natin, sa family members natin. We need to make sure that they have enough funds to pay for estate tax if something happens to the owner of those properties. Okay? And life insurance can also be used to pay off debts. So, kasi nga instant money siya, kung meron mang mangyari sa atin, at least kung meron tayong utang, hindi naman maiiwan yun as responsibility ng sumunod sa atin or ng mga kapamilya natin. At least if we die and we're protected, the life insurance that they will be getting can be used to pay off our debt. So, there are different purposes, and kaya nga yung iba, may iba't iba silang life insurance na kinukuha dahil iba-iba rin nga talaga yung purpose niya. Okay, so I'm gonna share with you some facts about life insurance para mas maintindihan pa natin ano ba yung bago natin pasukin, ano ba dapat yung i-consider natin. So first, the cost of life insurance goes up every year because the risk of dying is higher as you get older. So, di ba, kung mag-start ka at 25, for as low as 2,000 or 3,000 pesos per month or maybe per year, pwedeng makakuha ka na ng life insurance. But if you get older, mas mataas na yung premium. Another factor that affects our life insurance premium and coverage would be our health. So, kung sakitan tayo or kung mataas nga yung risk natin, malamang mas mahal. Third, there is no free insurance. Definitely, walang libre. And matakot ka, diba? Kung libre yan, baka wala ring coverage yan. Fourth, all insurance are term insurance. So, when we say term insurance, pwedeng 10-year term, 5-year term, whole life term, diba? So, may number of years para sa payment. So, how do we test if we are getting into a good life insurance? So, it must have all these four cornerstones. So, una sa lahat, dapat safe, diba? Kaya mga papasukin because you want to make sure na if you get into it, papoprotect talaga yung family mo. And second yun, protection for your family if something happens to you. That's the primary purpose talaga. You get life insurance so that your family will be able to continue their life and masustain nila yung needs nila should anything happen to you. Third, dapat walang tax yan. Diba? Kung wala ka na nga, may tax pa. So, mas maganda walang tax. And lastly, if you can get into something that will also give you the opportunity to grow your money. So, how do we compute the life insurance coverage that we need? I'm going to share with you two simple ways of computing life insurance coverage. Una, yung income replacement formula. This is ideal for those who do not have a lot of responsibilities. Diba? Kung single ka pa, pwedeng yan muna yung gamitin mong formula. But if you have responsibilities, may mga debts kang binabayaran, you have children na kailangan isend to school, then you can use the dime method. So first, let's talk about the income replacement formula. It's very simple. It's just annual income times 10 because assuming that you are earning 20,000 per month, so 20 times 12, that's 240,000 annual income times 10. The income replacement that you need is 2.4 million. So if you have 2.4 million as life insurance, pag nawala ka, ang kailangan lang gawin ng family mo is to make sure that they invest it on a vehicle or on an investment vehicle that earns at least 10% annually. Kahit hindi na nagtatrabaho yung breadwinner kasi nga namatay siya, diba? They will still be getting 240,000 per year from the 10% interest ng investment. So, 240K is the annual income divided by 12. They will still have 20,000 per month. Diba? So, that's the first formula. It's very simple and very straightforward. Now, the dime method is a little bit more detailed. Diba? So, let's have a hypothetical example. Halimbawa, may utang kang 500,000 and your income replacement is 2.4 million. You have mortgage, education. Ang total protection that you need, you just have to add all of those figures. So, you need 5.9 million. Now, I'm gonna share with you one of the cheapest type of insurance that we can get para, di ba, kung kailangan mo ng 5.9 million, hindi mo kailangan magbayad ng sobrang laking premium. And this kind of life insurance is what we call annual renewable term. So, very cheap siya kasi once a year mo lang siya babayaran. So, to give you figures, example, you're 25 years old, you need 1 million coverage. You just need to pay 5,590 pesos per year. May 1 million coverage ka. So, kung 5 million yung gusto mong coverage, just pay 23,000 pesos per year. Meron ka ng 5 million coverage. So, we call this the multiple option super term. It's an investment vehicle by MB Life. So, if you want to know more about this, you can ask us after this webinar. Okay. So, we're done with life protection. Let's discuss about debt management. First, why do people fall in a debt trap? Ayan, utang. Ano bang mga source niyan? Yung mga schemes like buy now, pay later, 0% interest installment, sales, discounts, no or low down payment. So, maraming mga tao, they will buy something that's out of their 70% or kumbaga out of budget dahil nga staggered naman daw yung payment or installment naman or naka-sale naman, etc. etc. So, bibili nila yun kahit hindi pa talaga nila afford. And it all boils down to this. People are so into instant gratification. Gusto nilang ma-enjoy yung mga bagay na hindi pa naman nila kaya talagang i-enjoy or hindi papasok sa budget nila. And worst, people spend on things they don't need to please people they don't even like. Diba? Yung para lang makaporma sa kapitbahay or para sikat sa mga kaibigan, nauuwi sa utang. And parati nga naming sinasabi sa mga tao, don't let pride make you broke. Diba? Huwag tayong mabaon sa utang. So, why should we manage our debts? Because debt can turn into a disease. It could control your life, diminish your happiness, and limit your freedom. So, hindi masayang magkautang, hindi masayang magkaroon ng isang bagay na posibleng bawiin sa'yo in the future kasi hindi mo pa fully paid. 'Di ba? Kumbaga, na-acquire mo siya through a debt or a loan. Kaya, kung hindi mo na siya kayang bayaran, babawiin lang rin siya sa'yo, diba? So, sayang. And it limits what you can do in your life. Mas masayang mabuhay ng simple, pero alam mo na lahat ng meron ka talagang sa'yo. Diba? So, how do we manage our debt? So, I'm gonna share with you some tips. First, don't get into more debt. So, learn how to live below your means, live simply, buy only what is needed, and change your habit of spending to the habit of saving. Second, eliminate bad debts. So, ideally, pay your credit card debts in full and on time. Hindi pwedeng yung minimum payments lang. And as much as possible, use cash or debit cards. Third, create a list of all your debts. Pay off the ones with the highest interest first. And fourth, increase your cash flow. So, tigil-tigilan mo yung pag-uutang mo. Mas maganda, palaguin mo muna yung income mo. And mas malaki yung pumapasok dapat kaysa sa lumalabas. Also, if talagang medyo dead end ka na, look for some of your assets na pwede mong i-liquidate so that you can generate income. And, of course, kung talagang medyo hindi mo na alam yung gagawin mo at kailangan mo talagang tulong, find a coach. So, find someone who will really guide you until you get out of your debt. So, don't be afraid to seek for help. So, lahat naman tayo may kailangan. And, minsan, hindi mo na kailangan paabutin pa sa sobrang lala before you look for a coach. Okay? So we are done with healthcare, life protection, and debt management. This time, let's talk about building emergency funds. What are the emergency scenarios that we have to prepare for? Example, major car repairs, major home repairs, loss of job, emergency hospitalization, major appliance repairs, calamity. So, example yung major car repairs. Isang pagpapagawa lang ng sasakyan, let's say magpapapalit ka ng baterya, it could cost you 3,000 or 4,000 to 8,000 or maybe 10,000 pesos. So, kung wala tayong nakatabi na 4,000 to 10,000 pesos, anong mangyayari sa atin? Basta mauuwi tayo sa utang or kung may major home repairs, diba, magpapapalit ka ng bubong na butas or merong cabinet na nasira, how much will that cost? So, again, kung wala tayong naitatabi for those expenses, we will end up borrowing money. And isa sa pinakamalaking bagay na pwede nating paggamitan ng emergency fund natin is if mawalan tayo ng trabaho, 'di ba? If we are in between jobs, dapat meron tayong enough ipon na liquid na pwede nating gumagamit for our day-to-day expenses. So, these are some of the examples that we need to prepare for. And siguro emphasis lang din sa calamity, especially here in the Philippines. Diba? Hindi naman natin makokontrol yung kung kailan tayo tatamaan ng calamity. So, ang importante, we prepare for it. So, we call it an emergency, kasi nga, walang makakapag-predict kung kailan siya mangyayari. But, then again, we need to be prepared for it anyway. Okay, so ideally, you set aside at least 3 to 6 months of your total expenses or pwede ding total income. Depende sa'yo kung saan ka mas comfortable. Basta ang importante, kaya niyang makover yung mga biglaang needs mo. So, para hindi ka rin mauwi sa paggamit ng credit card or sa pangungutang sa ibang tao. So, by doing this, you'll be freeing yourself from financial stress. So, you can start with at least 1,000 pesos per month for your emergency fund. Or pwede din, tip ko, mag-challenge kayo. Let's say 50 pesos challenge or 100 peso challenge. Diba? Kahit pa konti-konti magtabi kayo for your emergencies. So, just to end this topic, it's better to be prepared than to be caught off guard. Diba? Para hindi tayo nauuwi sa mas maraming utang. So, we're done with healthcare, life protection, debt management, and emergency funds. Let's talk about investments. Do you want to grow your wealth? Well, the best way you can do it is through investments. And what we're going to talk about today is investment sa mga paper assets or sa stock market. So, how does the stock market work? I'm gonna give you a very simple example. And one of my favorite example to give is Jollibee. So, si Jollibee started offering to the public in 1997. So, at 27 pesos per share, pwede ka nang makabili ng share ng stock ng Jollibee. Now, in 2017, actually even in 2018, it had its all-time high. So, I think, umabot na yan 290 pesos plus. So, paano ba nag-work? Paano kumikita sa stock market? Assuming, if a person invested 100,000 in Jollibee back in 1997, the total value of her money by 2017 becomes, so kung 1997, 27 pesos per share siya. So, at 100,000 pesos, nakabili na siya ng 3,703 shares. Ngayon, kung yung 3,000 plus shares na yun, ibebenta mo at 250 pesos, magkano na yung pera, diba? So, 3,703 shares times 250 pesos, that's equivalent to 925,750. So, ang total na kinita, less the capital, is 825,750. So, anong ginawa nung person? Diba? Nag-invest lang siya kay Jollibee at hinayaan niya na yung Jollibee Corporation lumago through time. Now, if you notice, this isn't an overnight thing. It took 20 years to make money work for him, diba? So, talagang when it comes to investing, you need to take time. Hindi pwedeng instant. Now, how do we become shareholders of these big corporations? So we can do it through the stock market, and there are two ways to invest in the stock market. So the two ways are direct and indirect. Diba? Very easy to remember. So for direct, yan yung we can do it through the stocks. And when you invest through the stocks, talagang kailangan mas may idea ka or mas may knowledge ka about the fundamentals and the technicals. Pag indirect naman, that's investing through mutual funds. So first, let's talk about direct stocks. So pag direct stocks, imagine there are about 250 publicly listed companies in the Philippine stock market. So, ibig sabihin, ang dami mong pwedeng pagpilian because direct stock investing is done personally or kumbaga personal mo siyang manage. You need to be guided so that you can avoid losing money. Kasi nga kapag nag-invest ka sa hindi mo naman masyadong napag-aralan, may possibility na malugi ka. And it would be best that you really invest on blue chip stocks para masulit yung paglalagyan mo ng pera. The thing though with direct stock investing, so una sa lahat dapat nga kailangan may knowledge ka. And syempre dapat yung pera na meron ka will be enough to buy big companies or yung mga tinatawag na nating blue chip stocks. Okay? So, now let's talk about indirect stock investments through mutual funds. So, I'm gonna give you an example of a mutual fund company na nag-start din noong 1997 so that you can see yung growth. Ang ginagawa lang naman ng mga mutual fund companies is that they pool the funds of all the investors and there's a professional who manages the fund and sila na yung nag-aaral kung saan sila mag-i-invest. The beauty about investing in mutual funds is that automatically diversified na siya. Meaning, SEC requires mutual fund companies to have at least 10 corporations under them. So, kumbaga dapat 10 corporation yung binibili nila. So, medyo technical discussion. I'm just gonna show you how it works. So, PhilEquity, it started in 1997 also at 1.1 peso per share. And in 2017, it had its one of the all-time high of 40 pesos per share. So, kung nag-invest ka rin ng 100,000 noong 1997, makakabili ka ng more or less 100,000 shares. Diba? And if you sell it at 40 pesos per share, can you just imagine your gain? 100,000 shares times 40 pesos per share, that's equal to 4 million pesos. So, again, anong kailangan mong gawin? Hanapin mo lang yung best opportunities or tamang mga companies o mutual funds kung saan magandang mag-invest. And you just let the professionals do the hard work for you. Diba? Mag-invest ka na lang. And the beauty is this, in IMG, we don't just teach people why it's important to invest. We also give you the means to actually invest. So we have partners, we have different mutual fund companies as partners, and we also have MyTrade for direct stock investing. So we have access to both direct and indirect stock investing. If you want to do it, then you can just ask us later on how to start. Okay, so just to summarize, for mutual funds, of course, you will have growth and it has a lower investment requirement. For as low as 5,000 pesos, you can already open a mutual fund account, and even with just 1,000 pesos per month, okay na yun. And it's diversified within itself kasi nga minimum 10 companies yung binibili. It's professionally managed. I think this is the best part, especially for those na hindi nila masyadong kayang humarap sa computer at magbantay ng nangyayari sa market or hindi nila kayang i-update yung stock positioning nila. So, mas maganda that we invest through mutual funds. Now, for direct stocks, of course, it also has growth. It has a higher investment requirement. You can open with 5,000 pesos. Pero, syempre, if you want to diversify, dapat mas marami kang pera. And another good thing about this is that if you want to manage it by yourself, then you can do it. Okay, so that's it for investments. So remember this, when it comes to investing, the longer you stay, the more you can gain. And time and not timing is the best ally when it comes to building your wealth. Hindi pwedeng patagalin mo because Earlier, when we discussed about the compounding interest, diba, mas nag-work siya kung mas mahaba yung oras na binibigay mo for your money to grow. We've already finished discussing about the 4 basic financial planning concepts and the application. So now let's talk about IMG and how we can take you further. So, IMG is really committed to educate you and to give you the means to execute what you have learned. So, I'm inviting you to become part of this community and grab the opportunity to get educated on all aspects of personal finance. We offer financial literacy workshops, we give free books and workbooks so that you can have continuous learning. And naniniwala ako hindi naman makukuha sa isang upuan yung pag-aaral about financial independence and about financial literacy, diba? So, continuously learn and receive trainings through IMG. So, super sulit. Second, get access to all of the different investments and investment vehicles and services that we offer. And by doing this through IMG, you can save and get discounts if you invest for yourself and your family. And third, I encourage you to start sharing this and, pwede mo tong maging additional income stream if you want to increase your cash flow. And it's very simple. You just have to share what you have learned, and when people start investing, you can be their financial coach. And the beauty about IMG is that we are also committed to teaching you how to become a financial coach. That's your next action step. So, simply follow these 4 steps. Step 1, after this webinar, we are going to encourage you to start doing your financial blueprint. So, make sure that you talk or email or send a personal message to the person who invited you to watch this webinar. And create a plan para mas ma-apply mo talaga sa personal financial life mo yung mga concepts na natutunan mo today. Second, if you're serious and you want to succeed in your pursuit towards financial independence, be part of IMG. So, you can already take advantage of the different membership benefits, particularly yung pag-aaral nga about financial literacy and yung application nun. You can get discounts and you can also start doing this for your family as well. Third, attend our workshops and classes in the financial centers that we have across the Philippines para talagang tuloy-tuloy lang yung pag-aaral. And the fourth step, I will leave that up to you. Sa dami ng mga natutunan mo today, make sure that you do one small thing aside from this 3 steps that I gave you. So, that could be list down mo lahat ng expenses mo, simulan mo i-identify ano ba yung mga income sources mo, magbawas ka ng gastos, magbayad ka ng utang. So, it's up to you, diba? Or perhaps you wanna start tithing, you wanna start setting aside maybe 20% of your income, or kung gusto mo, you can start with 2%, diba? And smaller increments. Basta make sure that you act on something already. And little by little, with your small acts, you can really achieve your financial freedom. So just to end, let me share this beautiful and powerful quote to you. So, the kind of life that you live tomorrow depends on the choices that you make today. So, make sure that you do something that your future self will thank you for. So, if you want to learn more about IMG and you want to discuss your financial blueprint and other things, don't forget to click the button and follow the link below. Thank you.